station and put me on a train. I've got no expectations to pass through here again. Once I was a rich man, but now I am so poor. Never in my sweet short life have I felt like this before. Your heart is like a diamond. You throw your pearls at swine. As I watch you leaving me, you kill my peace of mind. Our love was like the water that splashes on a stone. Our love was like our music. It's here and then it's gone. So take me to the airport and put me on a plane. I've got no expectations to pass through here again. This is a song I wrote, ironically enough, right about the time Frank was going into the hospital in the fall of 14, I believe it was. It's called Angels, Black Eights, and Aces. She bought an old guitar and a beat-up truck, and she set out down the road, trying to outrun a broken-down luck, trying to escape her heavy load. She stopped grieving her life that had up and died, eased the pedal to the floor, drying tears that she had cried. She won't be coming back here no more. Lost angels, black gates, and aces, fading signs and memories. Another trip down the lost highway. The two-lane blacktop heal me. St. Christopher's riding on the dashboard. A blue steel coat sits by her side. One more trip down that lost highway. Merle sings on her last ride. A broken bottle and an empty bar stool. Oh, where can you turn when love has died? Praying to a God she don't believe in. Now there's nothing left to do but drive. She drove all night across the barren desert. Her windows down and the radio on. Giving the darkness all her hurt. By the light of daybreak it was all gone. Lost angels, black gates, and aces, fading signs and memories. One last trip down the lost highway. Unbroke her heart and set her free. Lost angels, black gates, and aces, fading signs and memories. One last trip down the lost highway. Unbroke her heart and set her free. One last trip down the lost highway. Unbroke her heart and set her free.
Potentially portrayed that it was an open house, so there may be people coming and going, but thank you all for being here. For those where it's been a while, I'm Lauren. I'm the middle child, middle daughter, Dana, and baby Paige. Yeah, my little big sister, as I like to call her. We don't have a very strict schedule, besides for the fact that we have to be out of here at 6. As Dad would like, just kind of go with the flow. We're definitely gonna do some drumming, which I think we'll get into right away. And Kent will lead us with that. And we will untraditionally have to, stop at a certain time, and following that, I think we're just gonna kind of get together and would like everybody to share a story about Dad. I know that there are a lot of good ones from many people here, so I think with that, we can go on into the drumming. Yeah?
So some of you that have come to this community in the past are familiar with Sonny, the big drum. Frank was kind of a steward of Sonny after Marshall left. Marshall and some folks built Sonny. And when Marshall moved to Florida, Frank sort of took her under his wing. And one of the stories that I have is taking Sonny over to the state capitol for a recovery rally with Frank. And we set her up on the lawn over there and just had hundreds of people come and drum on her, and it was a very incredibly powerful experience. So Marshall has asked me to read a few things about Sani for those of you that are familiar or aren't familiar, just to give you a little background. And I think rather than try to paraphrase, I'm just going to read what he sent me. Is it pretty, as he says, yo bro, the attached has the whole enchilada. So I'm going to trust that it does. Have lifted some of the key paragraphs here that I think are important for Frank's event. It is vitally important to embrace that this experience is not about quality, nor about expertise in rhythm. Sani is not a musical instrument in the classic sense. She is a vibrational vessel which can hold all in community. The essence of the experience is the relationship of the people in the circle. There are magical moments where one powerful voice is created out of the many. Players stop worrying about keeping time because time, as they know it, has stopped. In its place is a living, breathing entity expressing timeless joy, passion, and release through the power of rhythm. Sani represents the opportunity to experience this feeling of community at a deep, visceral level. We can find this space as a community if we step out of the control of our egos and adopt the intent to listen and witness. Some clues about those aspirations. First, listening. In words or vibrations, if you are thinking of a response, you are not listening. Listen to the beat, let it carry you, become entrained with the vibration. A drum circle is a collaborative, self-organized event created in the moment by all the people who participate. When we share our spirit in the form of rhythm, it changes our relationships. We give ourselves a rhythmical massage, empowering an emotional release and a healing. The release and healing is different for every person that is in the rhythm circle, and it happens whether we are in the circle drumming or standing outside the circle. Witnessing is embracing another or an experience in love without judgment. If you are in that sacred space, indeed, if you are in the universe, it is impossible for you not to participate. As community, however, we need your aspiration to be with us wherever we journey. In terms of the drum, that means if we cannot hear you, you are hiding from us in some form of shame or fear. On the other hand, if we can hear you above the others, you are in your ego trying to control, in Native American terms, pushing the string. Occasionally you will hear and feel an ego in the sound of the drum. Please do not give them your power by reacting. Instead, hold them in love and invite them to return to the community. A lot of times when we've done Sani here, we've done drum washes underneath, which is an incredibly powerful thing. And given the time span that we have tonight, I don't know if we're going to have time to do that. So we've kind of decided that we're going to place Frank under Sani, and we'll just let the drum wash over Frank tonight. And so that will be a space reserved for Frank. We can all visualize Frank under the drum as we send Sani's communal vibrations to him and through him. Then he's literally underneath Sani.
So if anybody who knew Dad, coffee was like anything, yes, in his veins. And so I think, you know, we thought nothing was more appropriate than him in a Starbucks mug. So as weird as that may sound, that is what is, and there he is.
So that's perfect. So
He's part of him is here with us in the coffee mug. Part of him has already been sailed at sea. So the ceremony that we had in Florida a couple weeks ago over New Year's, we sent him off in the ocean after his ceremony, which I think is really where he wanted to be.
So what we'll do is we can typically, there's 13 sides to Sani, so we'll get 13 people around her right now. Others can come and stand behind, and then we'll start the drumming just by tapping on the drum, and then eventually as we raise the vibration, we'll pick up the beaters and we'll start drumming. And drum until you feel you want to step back, and there'll be somebody behind you that can step in and take your place. It'll all flow just exactly the way that it's supposed to. At the end of this, Marshall threw this out, and I think it's a great idea. Tonight, as many of you know, is a full moon, and it's in native terms it's called the wolf moon, and wolf spelled backwards is flow. So Marshall thought it would be a great idea if at the end of the drumming, when we'll step back from the drum and we're gonna howl at the wolf moon for a little bit. So whoever,
Also,
go ahead.
I was just going to add too, I know there were some of us on an email chain over the last couple weeks, but as tonight is the full moon, Marshall has always done his full moon services every month, and with that being today, he is in Florida on the beach drumming as we're drumming, also with Dad in mind, celebrating with us, so you just keep that in mind.
They actually will be doing 13 hand drums on the beach in honor of the 13 sides of Sani. So there'll probably be a little synchronicity here. And I know Marshall and I have had some interesting little coyote appearances by Frank. I'm sure you guys have too. So don't be surprised if he's maybe not entirely in the cup. So anybody that feels a desire, step up to the drum and we'll start drumming.
Brought purple nail polish. So again, for anybody that is familiar with Marshall and I don't know where this came from.
I found it at the garden steps. We had a discussion group that went on downstairs, and we used to sit around a blanket, and we would talk about different topics, and we would paint our toenails purple. And then when Kent and I went down to visit Frank with Marshall last spring, I got one of the nurses to give me permission, so I painted one of Frank's toenails purple, but they would only let me paint one because they were using them as a diagnostic, so they wouldn't let me paint them all. But, so it's a tradition that goes back a few years.
So to do this, as I know all of us have a lot of stories. My dad, a lot of us knew him for a very long time. This is a talking stick, and this is something that my dad used a lot. The premise of Talking Stick is, as Kent was kind of explaining when he was introducing Sonny as well, is you have the stick, and when you have the stick, you have the power to talk, and everybody else is listening. So when you listen, if you are wanting to think of a response, or if you're responding, then you're not listening. So again, my dad, Marshall, explained a lot. My dad used this stick a lot for a lot of different reasons, good, bad, or indifferent. But we are going to use this, so if you have a story or if something comes to mind, you can take Talking Stick as many times as you want. But if you don't have the stick, then you're listening. If you have the stick, you're telling a story. I have endless amounts of stories about my dad, of course, but I think I've learned a lot about him over these past few months. While he was in the hospital, and especially now since he's been gone. And he was a good guy. He had a huge, huge heart. And wanted nothing but everybody to be happy. He had a lot of friends. And he stayed in touch with a lot of them, even being so far away, which is exactly why a lot of you are here. All of you are here. And that's really cool. I think something else I'm gonna interrupt myself. I think everybody is kind of wondering whether you knew what actually happened with Dad, and we all thought that he was kind of, on a good path. So just a high-level story for if you have questions when you have Talking Stick, I'm willing to answer. We can fill in any holes or answer questions that you guys have, because I know that, for a good portion of the time, he couldn't talk while he was in the hospital, and there were only so many people that spoke with him while he was there. So that's all I have. I am Lauren, and I have spoken.
I know Frank through our father, Michael Molitor. They played in bands for many years. Frank was the lead singer, my dad was lead guitar. They were like fighting lovers most of the time when we were growing up. It was like something out of Spinal Tap, right? Frank was the man that when all of our friends would come over, because Dallas and I were pretty much the only kids. Nobody like their age had kids, so we were just kind of hanging out with the band. And our girlfriends would come over and be like, "Is Frank gonna be there? He's so cute." And he was. He was. They were very charismatic. They were great men to grow up with. We had wonderful mentors. Frank did have a heart of gold and personality plus, and the memories of him will ring true through the rest of our lives. We'll miss him dearly. And now they're playing some serious rock and roll music. I know it. They are causing so much trouble, it's not even funny. Amen. I have spoken. Next.
I'm Clay. I played in a minimum of 4 bands proper, and then all kinds of ad hoc things that we did over the years. And I'll just make this short and sweet. He had a lot of gifts. His talent, his intellect, his wit, and his passion, because he spoke about everything passionately, and just a wellspring of love, and he was willing to share all those gifts, and he did in abundance, and I'm just glad that he did. I have spoken.
Hi, I'm Doug Beckwith. I played with Frank for a few years at the end of the 70s. He's quite a visionary. The first time I ever met him, I thought the same thing. That man is beautiful. On to other things. I want to tell you a story about Frank and Mike kind of together, and they started this mess, but it was right around 78, and marketing was a big part of the band at that time, and we were, one of the best bands around the Twin Cities, I think. Anyway, Mike had found 144 little refrigerator magnets. I don't know if you girls have ever heard this story before, but we used to throw them out during Toys in the Attic by, so like at the end of the night, toys in the attic. Frank would be throwing these things out. So he came to me and said, we got to have a better way to do this. Why don't we build catapults? I'm kind of an engineer at heart, so I built the catapults. And there was one on either side of the stage, and basically it's a wicker basket, about yay big, could hold maybe 100 little refrigerator magnets. And it had a big spring on the thing, and you spring to press this way, you pull it all the way back, and you put a pin in there so a guy could pull a little rope and deploy, or the projectiles, into the audience. Well, it's kind of like a shotgun. They didn't really spread out, so we did this once, and it was hilarious. And Mike and Frank thought it was the funniest thing ever. I thought we were going to jail. And the best part of the story is they came back at us. People started throwing back because these poor people got them in their beer and everything else, so tossing them back. And that's King's Hideaway, 1978 roughly, and that's one of my best memories of Frank.
This has been really hard. Learning so much about my dad that I don't think I ever really knew. But I don't think that's anybody's fault. I think that everything happens for a reason. But coming back here, when I used to just think of this place as my jungle gym, I knew all the secret doors, right over there, over there. I used to feel really special because my dad was the singer. But he taught me a really important lesson right here in this sanctuary. When I was little, I think it must have been after a service. We were breaking down all the equipment and everyone had gone, and he found this book, and it was called You Are Special. And he taught me, he read the book to me, we sat on the floor, and basically the concept was everyone went around sticking stars and dots on people. The beautiful people got stars, and the ugly people who had chipped paint got the dots. But the main character met a lady who she didn't have any stickers, and she was glowing. She had this pretty white dress on, and it's because she didn't care what they thought. She did her own thing. She was confident. She was always smiling, and people wanted and tried to stick stickers on her, but they fell off. And I was so little, but it was such a big concept. I couldn't hear the words, I only saw the bigger picture of it. And it's stuck with me. So I don't think that I think I'm like my dad in a lot of ways, just in my blood. But just not having him around so much when I was growing up, I'm glad I'm so much like him, but he tried everything in his power and did everything in his power to just love me from afar, teach me things when I was younger, and he was the best. He's the best man that I know. And everything that I want in love, he is. And I'm just glad that I at least know that now. he sets the bar very high. And I'm so honored to be his daughter. So I love you, Daddy. I'm Paige, not spoken.
I'm Kent. I started coming to this spiritual community, I think it was maybe 1994, 95, sometime in there. And there was a tall guy here with nice hair. Name was Frank. Used to sing some music. And didn't take long to find out that I was a musician, and Frank and I pretty soon just had this almost instantaneous bond. And next thing I know, we're playing music together. We played a lot of music on that stage. I played in a couple of bands with Frank, a couple of incarnations of No No Fear. Frank's the only guy I've ever played the Lake Harriet band show with. That was a great memory. I've got so many memories with him. He was just a stand-up guy. I mean, he was always doing things for people and always, there and staying connected. Even after he moved to Florida, whenever he would come back in town, we'd get together and we'd go for a walk or we'd go get something to eat and just talk about what was going on. I talked to him on the phone a lot in that time when he moved down there. And Linda, you mentioned God and sex. That was another one of Frank's great grand ideas, and it was really an interesting exchange of ideas. There was always a lot of interesting people there. There was a lot of great discussion, and Frank did just a brilliant job of putting the material forth and moderating it. He did that for a long time. Boy, I just feel really blessed to have wandered into these doors and crossed paths with him all those years ago and been able to keep that connection. And Linda and I and Marshall were able to visit Frank this past March in Florida. And I hadn't seen him in a long time. I talked to him, I guess, before he went in the hospital, but didn't, like all of us, didn't have any idea that any of this stuff was coming down the road. And really, I'm getting old, and I'm learning that life is really about not what happens to you in life, but how you show up for it. And boy, the stuff that Frank went through and how he showed up for that stuff.
I'm Gary. My fondest memory of Frank was also in the God and Sex group. I participated in that. It seems like it lasted about 2 years. I was there almost every week. The whole title of that group was God and Sex, What's the Difference? And Frank, we all had names, and I was Captain Ecstasy, and Frank was Pan from the Greek mythology, meaning fertility, as I recall. We had some interesting conversations. We got into a lot of depth. We did discuss the physical aspects of sex, but after we got through that, we started looking at relationships and what that meant. I think we got to a place, at least I got to a place where it was hard for me to define where I ended and another person began. So I guess I walked away with a deeper understanding of sexuality, meaning human intimacy, and sexuality being simply the exchange of energy. I can still remember Frank sitting down the street at Sebastian Joe's, drinking coffee and reading a book. He was so friendly. He was so full of love. You know, he'd talk to anyone at any time. And we got to know each other pretty well. I didn't get to see him recently, but he's still here. Frank, thank you so much for everything that you've given us.
As long as we're on a roll about God and sex. What I remember from that period was he created a wonderful, safe space for me, for everybody else in the group, but for me. And it was amazing. Most of the participants were male, but I've never been real shy about my sexuality, and I had something to say. And it was awesome to be able to be in that space that he created, that Marshall created, to sit as an equal, to be treated as an equal. 20 years ago, that was unusual. What I really am grateful for is the opportunity to have gone to visit him last spring. I hadn't had hardly anything to do with him in years, and heard that he was ill at the same time when my husband died, and it really impacted me. And to be able to go and to be a part of a mystery. On the surface, I was there, I was painting his toenail. But what I really wanted to do was be in his space, and he let me do that. I asked him to let me heal, nurture. I don't know how I phrased it at the time, but I put my hands on him, and he just let me be. It was for me as much, if not more, for him. To feel cared for, even as he was in his own place, to reach out to me and let me do what I needed to do to feel a part of what was happening. It was an amazing thing, and I will never forget that. I will never forget Frank. Thanks, man. I am Linda, and I have spoken.
I think we'll watch the video. Marshall, as many of you know, was my dad's girlfriend. He created this video to music that my dad made. No Fear was the group. He wrote this through probably one of the hardest times of his life. And that's pretty amazing. We can watch it now. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Demetrius, and I would like to, here's my stick. I would like to share a poem that I wrote with my mother. She helped me out with it about Frank. But before I start, I just want to say that I've never met the most accepting and free-spirited man ever than Frank. I mean, he accepted me. He made me feel welcome. He taught me a lot of things. I also, I realized that he was more revolutionary than I was when it came to a lot of politics and social issues. But, so this poem I'm going to recite is called Remember. Okay. Remember Frank as he was, a devoted father, a forever friend, a people's person, a lady's joy, an uplifter who inspired and encouraged, a lover of life, living his way with smiles and laughter, stylish, free, wild and young in heart. He accepted death, yet challenged it every step of the way with smiles. Remember, it is better to have had lost than to never have it all. And selective memories are God's blessings to us. I pray in time, all will remember Frank and smile. I am Demetrius and I have spoken.
As we all know, my dad loved music. Can you imagine that? So, Kent and Carol are gonna lead us in a song. Always and forever will remind me of my dad. My dad and I sang this a couple times. I know he sang this with Kent and Carol here many of times. It was sang in this church. We sang it at my grandma's wedding. But I think we all know it. Feel free to sing along. I think Dad would love to know that we're all singing together.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world can live as one.
You know, I got something from Marshall in the, maybe you guys saw this, I know it was on Facebook, but I just felt motivated to read this. It's a poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry that was written in 1932. And it says, "Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sun on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the soft starlight at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die."
So I just want to say thank you for being here for us, for my dad, for yourself. As the words to the song that we listened that he wrote and then he sang, all he wanted was a simple life. And I hope that's what he has now. And for as free-spirited as he was, I know he's hopefully just living it up. So, if anyone else has anything to share, please feel free. I know Linda brought something. Do you want to
In the spirit of remembering, for emotional events like weddings or funerals or memorials, I bring a little bowl of Apache tears. They're lava that has been ejected from a volcano, so they're actually glass, but they're a real good energy holder. And so these have been sitting underneath the drum. They also are a good trigger. So they have all of our energy that has been here. We're all connected. I also did this a year ago when we were here for Frank, and I still have mine. I carry it in my pocket, and it's a reminder. I stick my hand in my pocket, and it's like, oh, hey, Frank. So it reminds me to think about someone special and to share that. So you're welcome. Please come and take one. Put it on an altar or a shelf or in your pocket, in your purse if you like. And then please think about Frank.
I'm not sure if everyone was here when we were starting to introduce the drum, but Dad has been here with us in his Starbucks coffee mug the whole time. Yeah. So it's just, I just think it's awesome. How many people can say that their dad lives in a coffee mug?